as advocated by the opposition parties.
Question number 3, the Leader of the Opposition, David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement in relation to food in schools that, quote, most of those...
beg your pardon. Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Sir, given the extreme urgency of this issue, I seek leave for the Reserve Bank, amending primary function of Bank Amendment Bill, to have its first reading immediately after question time today.
Leave is sought for that course of action. Is there any objection? There is objection. Question number 3 now, the Leader of the Opposition, David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement in relation to food in schools that, quote, most of those decile 1 to 3 schools that have that and are dealing with the issue? And if so, is he therefore satisfied that all children attending New Zealand schools are having their nutritional needs met and are arriving at classrooms ready to learn?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes, I stand by, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I stand by my full statement, which was that, quote, in my experience, most of those decile 1 to 3 schools have that and are dealing with that issue. But obviously you'll see with the number of kids, the number of schools, for instance, on the waiting list for Kids Can, that there's more that needs to be done. Mr Speaker, I also noted that the government provides fruit in schools. Indeed, all decile 1 and 2 primary and intermediate schools are able to opt into this scheme, and the government provides funding to Kids Can for their Food for Kids program. Mr Speaker, as the member will know, we all want children to have their nutritional needs met and arriving in classes ready to learn. The government is keen to help where that is required, but the fundamental responsibility lies with the parents of those children to feed them.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Has he seen comments from the principal of Finlayson School in Manurewa, who says that she is spending $9,000 a year to feed hungry students? Quote, that's $9,000 not being spent on teaching and learning. And is this what he was meant when he said schools were dealing with the issue?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I haven't seen those particular comments, but I'm sure that our principal is doing everything she can to lift achievement for those children. As the member should know, it's important in the case of feeding children that the government supports where that is required, but does not act in a way that takes from families the responsibility for feeding their own children. I know the member doesn't believe it's their responsibility. He wants children all to be fed at school.
Order. That's sufficient. The Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, how does arguing about this issue resting on parent responsibility, which we all agree on, solve the problem tomorrow morning when more than 80,000 children turn up to school hungry?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I've outlined the range of careful measures the government is taking to help, to provide help where it is most needed. Where it is most needed. We don't intend to go down the track of taking from families the responsibility to feed their own children. It is a fundamental responsibility of a parent.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Given that his government is spending $560,000 on sports equipment for private schools and just $320,000 on Kids Can on feeding in schools, does he believe he has his educational priorities right?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes, we do have our educational priorities right. We have committed $9 billion actually to the funding of achievement in state-run schools. What we recognise, and that member doesn't, is that it's important the government does not act in this area in a way that undermines the responsibilities of families to feed their own children.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, in light of his comment on fruit in schools, is he suggesting that if a kid turns up hungry at school and is given a piece of fruit, that child is equipped with the nutritional needs it needs for the rest of the day?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, in some cases it might be. There are children who do have fruit for breakfast. In fact, I thought under the previous government's Healthy Eating, Healthy Action program, they were trying to make our children eat fruit for breakfast.
Question number 4, Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, question to the Minister for Tertiary Education, Skills and Employment. What reports has he received